Nia Kincaid had built her life on one unbreakable rule: never be impressed by power. Power lied. Power pretended. Power smiled while calculating how much it could take. So when the email arrived confirming that the closing sponsor of the Global Arts and Innovation Summit was one of the wealthiest men in Asia, Nia didn't bother Googling him. She didn't care how many headlines followed his name or how many governments bent to his influence. Men like that always wanted the same thing: control. And Nia Kincaid did not belong to anyone. She stood backstage at the Grand Meridian Hotel in Cape Town, headset snug against her ear, tablet balanced in one hand as staff rushed past her in coordinated chaos. The summit had taken 9 months to plan, 9 months of negotiations, sponsorship hurdles, creative compromises, and relentless pressure. Tonight was the final gala. Failure was not an option. "Nia, the press entrance is backing up," her assistant whispered urgently. "Redirect them through the East Wing." "No exceptions," Nia replied without missing a beat. "And the keynote donor is seated, briefed, and on a 10-minute countdown. I'll handle him." She exhaled slowly, grounding herself. This was her world. Precision. Strategy. Movement. Not billionaires. She stepped into the ballroom just as the orchestra softened, crystal chandeliers scattering warm light across a room filled with tailored suits and restrained ambition. Every conversation was curated. Every smile rehearsed. Her gaze flicked across the room instinctively, assessing flow and energy. And then something shifted. Not sound. Not light. Presence. The temperature in the room felt like it changed, subtle but undeniable. Conversations bent inward. Heads turned. Even the waitstaff slowed, eyes lifting instinctively. Nia followed the shift. That was when she saw him. He entered without ceremony, without entourage, without any visible need for acknowledgement. He wore charcoal, sharp end.
Understated, the kind of tailoring that didn't scream wealth but assumed it. Tall, broad-shouldered. Still, his face was composed in a way that unsettled her. Not cold, not warm, but measured. His eyes moved through the room like he was absorbing everything, filing details away with quiet precision. She knew, immediately, who he was. Not by name, by gravity. That had to be Adrian Vale, founder and CEO of Vale Holdings. Private equity titan, media ghost. Known for acquiring companies and never giving interviews. Rumored to be ruthless. Brilliant. Untouchable. The summit's final sponsor. Her chest tightened. Of course. She watched him accept a glass of champagne he didn't drink. Watched as people approached him carefully, deferentially. Watched him deflect attention without offending anyone. A skill learned only by men accustomed to power. And then, impossibly, his gaze met hers. The connection snapped like a live wire. Nia held the look for exactly 1 second before turning away. She didn't do eye contact games. She had work to do. The first collision. She found him 10 minutes later, standing precisely where he was not supposed to be. Backstage. "Sir," she said sharply, approaching him. "This area is restricted." He turned. Up close, he was worse. His eyes were dark, almost black, intelligent in a way that made her feel studied rather than seen. There was a faint scar along his jawline, nearly invisible, the kind that hinted at a past he didn't advertise. "I was invited," he said calmly. "No, you weren't." One eyebrow lifted slightly. Not offended. Amused. "I'm fairly certain I was." Nia crossed her arms. "This area is for staff only. Sponsors are seated in the ballroom." "And yet," he said, glancing around, "this appears to be where things actually happen." She stiffened. "If you're looking for recognition, you'll receive it on stage." "I'm not." That made her pause. "What are you looking for?" she asked coolly. He studied her now, not her face alone, but her posture, her voice, the way she held herself like someone who didn't expect permission. "The person in charge," he said. Her lips pressed together. "You're looking at her." For the first time, something real crossed his face. "Interest." "Knew it," he murmured. She bristled. "If you'll excuse me, Mr. Vale, I have a program to run." She turned to walk away. His voice followed her. "You don't like men like me." She stopped, turned back slowly. Men like you. Yes. His gaze held hers. Men who arrive with leverage. Her jaw tightened. I don't like men who assume they're the center of every equation. A corner of his mouth curved, not quite a smile. Then we're going to get along terribly. Good, she said. I prefer efficiency over chemistry. He stepped closer, just one pace, just enough for her to feel the heat of him without being able to justify stepping back. Chemistry, he said quietly, is rarely a preference. Her breath caught. She hated that it did. Before she could respond, her headset crackled. Nia, we'll live in 30 seconds. She broke eye contact immediately. Take your seat, she said crisply, or I'll have security escort you. Adrian Vale held her gaze for one final moment. Then he leaned in, just enough that only she could hear him. Relax, he murmured. I'm not here to disrupt your world. His voice dropped. I'm here to test it. Then he walked away. Nia stood frozen, pulse racing, furious at herself for the way her skin still buzzed where he'd stood.
Unwanted awareness. The gala unfolded flawlessly. Applause thundered, donations soared, the press beamed, and through it all, Nia was painfully aware of him. Adrian Vale did not dominate the room, but the room adapted to him. He listened more than he spoke. When he did speak, people leaned in. When he moved, attention followed like a tide. Once, during a transition between speakers, she glanced toward the balcony. He was already watching her. This time, he didn't look away. Neither did she. The look stretched, unspoken, electric, until her assistant whispered her name urgently and the moment broke. She told herself it meant nothing. She was wrong. The offer. The next morning, Nia arrived at her office to find a single envelope waiting on her desk. No logo, no branding, just her name, written neatly. Inside was an itinerary: private flight, Cape Town to Marrakech. Emergency summit, Vale Foundation. Departure, 8 p.m. Her stomach dropped. She hadn't agreed to this. Her phone rang. She didn't answer. It rang again. She sighed and picked up. I don't take assignments without consultation. You consult outcomes, Adrian Vale replied calmly. Not egos. I don't work on private jets. That's unfortunate, he said. Because this one leaves tonight. She stood. You don't get to summon me. Silence. Then, quiet, measured honesty. This isn't about convenience, he said. It's about safety. Her breath slowed. Explain. There's a faction within the donor circle attempting to derail the summit's long-term funding, he said. You're an obstacle. They'll move quickly. That sounds like paranoia. That sounds like experience. She closed her eyes briefly. And if I say no? Then you'll still be in their reach. Her fingers tightened around the phone. Why me? She asked softly. Because you don't bend, he replied. And because they don't know how to control you. She hated how much that sounded like respect. I'll think about it,
she said. I'll see you at 8, he replied. The line went dead. She said, I'll see you at 8. Was sleek, he replied. Understated, and entirely unnecessary. The jet boarded with controlled resentment. The aircraft was sleek, echoing against polished floors, and entirely unnecessary. Adrian Vale was already there, jacket removed, sleeves rolled up. Reviewing documents like this was a routine commute. You're late, he said mildly. You're lucky I came at all. He glanced up. You came because you wanted answers. She didn't respond. The jet took off smoothly, city lights dissolving beneath them. For the first hour, they worked in silence. Until the turbulence hit. The first jolt rattled the cabin hard enough to snap Nia's head up. The second sent a tray clattering. The third. The jet dropped. Lights flickered. Alarms chimed. Nia's breath hitched. She hated flying. The plane shook violently, the sound of metal groaning around them. Before she could stop herself, she stood. And the jet lurched again. She stumbled. Strong hands caught her. Adrian Vale pulled her against him, steady as the world tilted. Sit, he said firmly. Now. She obeyed. The turbulence worsened. Oxygen masks dropped. The cabin dipped sharply, then leveled. Her heart was pounding. Adrian crouched in front of her, eyes locked on hers. Breathe, he said. With me. She did. The storm raged. And in the middle of it, his hand closed over hers, warm, unyielding, grounding. The turbulence began to ease. But neither of them moved. Neither of them spoke. And when the cabin finally stilled, the space between them was charged with something neither had planned for. Something dangerous. Something inevitable. Adrian Vale did not let go of her hand. And Nia Kincaid did not pull away. The sky over Marrakech was the color of burnished copper when the jet descended. Nia watched it through the window, her reflection faint against the glass. She looked calm. Controlled. Like the woman she had trained herself to be. Inside, she was still shaking. Not from the turbulence. From the fact that Adrian Vale's hand had remained wrapped around hers long after the danger had passed, and that she had let it. She pulled her fingers free as the landing gear touched down. "Thank you," she said coolly. "For earlier." He nodded once. No smile. No pressure. "You did well," he replied. That unsettled her more than praise. Marrakech was nothing like Cape Town. It was louder. Older. Warmer in a way that felt alive. The air smelled of spice and dust and history. The city pulsed, motorbikes weaving through crowds, voices overlapping in music she didn't understand but felt anyway. They were driven straight from the airport to a private riad tucked behind towering clay walls. Inside, it opened into an oasis, orange trees, lanterns, tiled fountains murmuring softly. Nia paused at the threshold. "This is where the summit is?" she asked. Adrian glanced at her. "This is where the conversations happen before the summit." She turned slowly. "You enjoy operating in shadows. I enjoy privacy." She didn't argue. The riad was beautiful in a quiet, intimate way, designed to lower defenses. Clever. Dangerous. They were shown to separate suites on opposite sides of the courtyard. Before disappearing down the corridor, Adrian spoke. "Dinner in an hour," he said. "You'll want to eat." "I can decide that myself." A flicker of something, approval, maybe, crossed his face. "I know," he said. And that was somehow worse. Dinner was served beneath the open sky. Low cushions. Flickering candles. The scent of saffron and citrus drifting between them. For the first time since they met, there were no staff hovering, no schedules dictating movement, no audience. Just the two of them. They ate in near silence at first. Nia broke it. "You still haven't explained why this meeting couldn't happen over a video call."
Adrian set down his glass. "Because trust isn't negotiated through screens. And you think flying me across continents builds trust? I think proximity reveals truth." She studied him. "That sounds manipulative." He met her gaze evenly. "It sounds honest." She laughed quietly, shaking her head. "You're not what I expected. Neither are you." That earned his first real smile of the night. It changed his face completely. She looked away too quickly. "So," she said, clearing her throat, "what's the real threat?" Adrian leaned back slightly. "The Vale Foundation is expanding into cultural preservation, art, heritage, education." "I know that," she said. "That's why I helped structure the summit." "Yes," he replied. "And because of that, several influential parties feel threatened." "Because culture isn't easy to own," she murmured. "Exactly." He watched her with renewed intensity. "They want a figurehead they can influence. Someone impressive, predictable." "And they didn't expect me," she said. "They underestimated you." Her chest tightened. "You don't know me," she said. "I know you don't compromise, Sean," he replied. "I know you don't flatter. And I know you refuse to bend to men who think money entitles them to obedience." She stilled. "That last part," she said quietly, "has cost me." His voice softened. "I know." That caught her off guard. She looked at him sharply. "How?" "I read everything," he said. "Your projects, your fallout with the European Arts Council, the grant you lost because you wouldn't attach a politician's name to it." Her throat tightened. "That was years ago. And you never recovered financially, he said gently. But you didn't retract your stance. No, she said. I didn't. Silence stretched between them. You could have played it differently, he added. You could have chosen comfort. I chose integrity. He nodded slowly. That's why they're afraid of you. Nia exhaled. For the first time in a long time, she felt seen, not admired, not assessed. Seen. Later, they walked the quiet streets beyond the Riyadh. The city had shifted. Louder in places, softer in others. Lanterns glowed overhead, casting gold across stone walls. Music drifted from unseen courtyards. Somewhere nearby, laughter spilled into the night. They walked side by side, close enough that their arms brushed occasionally. Each accidental touch sent a spark through her. You keep your distance, Adrian said suddenly. She frowned. From whom? Everyone. She considered denying it. Didn't. Distance keeps things clean, she said. People disappoint. So do walls. She stopped walking. You don't get to psychoanalyze me. I get to observe, he replied. It's my job. Well, observe this, she said. I don't mix my work with men who think intensity is intimacy. He turned to face her fully now, expression unreadable. I don't confuse attraction for entitlement, he said quietly, and I don't pursue women who aren't capable of walking away. Her pulse jumped. That's a very strategic answer. It's a truthful one. The air between them felt charged, heavy with words unsaid. Nia, he said, her name softer than she'd ever heard it. If this makes you uncomfortable. It does, she said immediately. He nodded. And yet you're still here. She hated that he was right. She took a step back. Good night, Adrian. She turned away before she could change her mind. She didn't look back. But she felt his gaze on her all the way to the Riyadh doors. Sleep did not come easily. Nia lay awake, listening to the faint sounds of the city beyond the walls. Her mind replayed moments she didn't want to admit mattered. The way he had steadied her on the jet. The way he listened without interrupting. The way he hadn't touched her since. Despite the tension screaming between them. At some point she gave up and rose, wrapping a shawl around herself before stepping into the courtyard. The night air was cool. Adrian was already there, standing near the fountain, sleeves rolled up, jacket abandoned, looking like a man wrestling with thoughts he couldn't silence. He turned when he sensed her. Couldn't sleep? He asked. She shook her head. You? No. They stood in silence. The fountain murmured. I don't do this, she said suddenly. He looked at her. This, whatever this is, she continued, I don't let it happen. Because it's dangerous? Yes. And because you want it? Her breath caught. She didn't answer. Adrian stepped closer, slowly, deliberately, giving her every chance to retreat. She didn't. I won't cross a line you don't invite me to, he said. Her heart pounded. Say the word, he continued, and I'll stop. Her voice trembled. And if I don't, then I'll kiss you, he said simply. The honesty undid her. Adrian, he waited. Every second stretched. Her pulse roared in her ears. She nodded. Just once. That was all it took. He kissed her like restraint was a choice he had been making deliberately. Slow at first, controlled. His hand cupped her jaw, thumb brushing her cheek with reverence that made her chest ache. She melted into him. The kiss deepened. Heat, hunger, months of denial igniting in a single breathless moment. Her hands fisted in his shirt. His arm wrapped around her waist, pulling her closer, grounding her against him. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard. This is a mistake, she whispered. Yes, he agreed. He didn't let go. That doesn't mean I regret it, she added. His forehead rested against hers. Neither do I. The world seemed to narrow to the space between them. For one reckless moment, she considered abandoning everything she'd built. But reality surged back. She stepped away. We can't, she said firmly. Not now. He studied her, then nodded. Then we won't, he said. Not unless you choose it. She swallowed hard. Thank you. For what? For stopping. A shadow crossed his face. That wasn't easy. She almost smiled. The next day was relentless. Meetings, strategy sessions, quiet negotiations layered with unspoken threats. Nia performed flawlessly, but the weight of the night before followed her everywhere. So did Adrian's presence. Their glances lingered, their conversations sharpened. Every interaction felt edged with what they were not doing. By evening, the summit appeared stabilized. Nia exhaled for the first time in days. "Looks like you won," she said quietly as they stood on the terrace overlooking the city. "For now," he replied. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. Her expression changed instantly. "What?" she whispered. Adrian turned sharply. "What is it?" She ended the call slowly, color draining from her face. "They've released something," she said. "A story." "What kind of story?" Her voice barely carried. "About me." Adrian's jaw tightened. "Pack your things," he said. "We're leaving." The city lights flickered below them, and Nia knew, deep in her bones, that the storm they had been avoiding had finally found them. By the time the sun rose over London, Nia Kincaid's name was everywhere. Not in the careful, professional way she had spent years cultivating, but in bold, reckless headlines designed to burn rather than inform. Summit architect accused of misconduct, insider deals, and shadow donations exposed as cultural philanthropy. Affront, Nia sat rigid on the edge of the hotel bed, phone clenched in her hand as notifications poured in faster than she could process them. She hadn't slept. She couldn't breathe. "They're lying," she whispered. Adrian stood across the room, jacket already on, phone pressed to his ear as he spoke in clipped, controlled tones to someone on his legal team. "Yes, pull everything. Every document, every timestamp." Pause. "No, do not engage the press." Another pause. "And freeze the acquisition. Immediately." He ended the call and turned to her. His expression was calm, but she knew enough now to see the fury beneath it. "They're accusing you of steering donor funds," he said, "of accepting personal incentives." Her hands trembled. "I've never—" "I know. But they've made it look real," she said. "The documents, they're fabricated, but they're convincing." "They wanted you destabilized," and he replied, "and me distracted." She laughed once, bitterly. "Congratulations, it worked." Adrian crossed the room in 2 strides and crouched in front of her. He took her hands gently, grounding her. "This ends," he said. "I won't let them destroy you." Her eyes burned. "You can't stop this." "I can slow it," he said, "and I can choose how far it goes." That scared her. "What does that mean?" she asked. He held her gaze. "It means I'm about to become very inconvenient." Within hours, the fallout began. Invitations rescinded, emails unanswered, calls that went straight to voicemail. The institutions that had praised her integrity just weeks earlier issued vague statements distancing themselves from her pending investigation. Nia watched it all unfold like she was outside her own body. "This is how it happens," she murmured. "They don't have to prove anything. They just have to make people uncomfortable." Adrian's phone buzzed again. This time, he didn't answer immediately. He read the message. His jaw tightened. "What?" she asked. "The board wants an emergency meeting," he said. "In person." Her stomach dropped. "They'll ask you to step back," she said quietly, "to protect the company." "They'll ask me to sacrifice you," he replied. She stood abruptly. "Then don't go." He met her gaze. "I have to." "Adrian." "If I don't," he said, voice low, "they'll assume guilt by association and move without me." She looked away, tears threatening. "Then go," she said. "But don't destroy yourself for me." His expression softened painfully. "You don't get to decide what you're worth," he said. "I do." The room was glass and steel and silence. 12 people sat around a table polished enough to reflect every hard expression, staring back at Adrian Vale. They didn't waste time. "This situation is untenable," one man said. "Your personal involvement has compromised our position." "You're emotionally invested," a woman added. "That makes you reckless." Adrian leaned back in his chair, hands folded calmly. "She's being targeted," he said, "and you know it." "Perception matters more than truth," another voice cut in. "Our investors are nervous." "Then reassure them," Adrian replied. "With what?" the woman snapped. "Your refusal to disengage." Silence. Then the chairman spoke. "You need to step aside from the foundation until this resolves," he said. "Publicly distance yourself from her." Adrian's gaze sharpened. No. A ripple moved through the room. Adrian. No, he repeated. I won't abandon someone to preserve optics. This is not personal, the chairman said coldly. This is business. Adrian stood. So was everything I built, he said quietly. And I didn't build it to protect cowards. Chairs scraped. You're risking billions, someone warned. He didn't flinch. I'm aware. You could lose control of the company. Yes. The chairman's voice hardened. Then choose. Adrian's mind flickered, not to profit margins or legacy, but to Nia's steady strength, her refusal to bend, the way she had looked at him in Marrakech like he was something more than a weapon. I already have, he said. He picked up his jacket. I'm stepping away from the deal with the sovereign fund, he continued, effective immediately. The room erupted. You can't. That's insanity. Our stock? Adrian turned at the door. Release a statement, he said. Make it clear this decision is mine. He left them staring after him. The news hit the markets within minutes. Vale Holdings withdraws from multi-billion-pound deal. CEO defies board amid personal scandal. The press frenzy exploded. Commentators speculated wildly. Investors panicked. Tabloids sharpened their knives. Nia watched the coverage in numb disbelief. He didn't, she whispered. Adrian returned to the suite just after midnight. She stood the moment she saw him. You walked away, she said. For me. He shrugged out of his jacket. Exhaustion etched into every line of his face. I walked away from a deal, he said. Not my principles. Her voice broke. You didn't have to do that. Yes, he said softly. I did. Tears spilled over. This will destroy you, she said. They'll never forgive this. He crossed the room and took her face in his hands. Listen to me, he said, intensity burning through exhaustion. They can take money. They can take power. He pressed his forehead to hers. But they don't get to decide who I am. She sobbed quietly against his chest. For the first time since the scandal broke, she allowed herself to fall apart. The next weeks were brutal. Legal battles, media ambushes, friends who vanished. Nia moved through it all like a ghost. Adrian remained beside her, unflinching, unwavering. One evening, after yet another article speculating about their relationship, she confronted him. You could still walk away, she said. They'd forgive you. He looked at her with something like disbelief. Is that what you want? No, she said quickly. I just don't want to be the reason you lose everything. He stepped closer. You're the reason I remember why any of it mattered. Her breath caught. He reached into his pocket, then stopped himself. Not yet. There's something I need to ask you, he said, but not tonight. Her heart pounded. What? Whether you're willing to stand in this storm with me, he said, because I won't ask unless I'm ready to accept your answer. She nodded, overwhelmed. I'm not going anywhere, she said. He exhaled slowly, like a man bracing for the last wave. The final blow came unexpectedly. A leaked memo, an anonymous source, a suggestion that Nia had manipulated Adrian emotionally to gain influence. She stared at the screen in disbelief. This is character assassination, she said. Adrian read it, jaw tightening. They want to fracture us, he said. Make this look transactional. She laughed hollowly, as if love could be reduced to leverage. He looked at her sharply. Love, he repeated. The word hung between them. She swallowed. Yes, she said. Love. Silence crashed over them. Then Adrian reached for her hand. Then let them watch, he said quietly. Let them see what choosing looks like. She squeezed his fingers. For the first time since the storm began, hope flickered. But the war wasn't over. It was just beginning. The worst thing about public ruin wasn't the noise. It was the waiting. Weeks passed in a strange, suspended state where Nia Kincaid existed in headlines more than in rooms. Every morning brought speculation dressed as certainty. Every evening brought silence from people who once needed her. She stopped checking her phone. Adrian didn't. He tracked everything. Legal filings, media shifts, quiet retractions that never made headlines but mattered all the same. He spoke to lawyers in 3 countries, investigators who owed him favors, journalists who still cared about evidence, and still the weight of it pressed down. One evening, after another exhausting day of meetings, Nia found Adrian alone on the terrace of their temporary home overlooking the Mediterranean coast of southern Spain. He stood with his hands braced on the railing, eyes fixed on the dark horizon. "You're still carrying it," she said softly. He didn't turn. "Someone has to." She stepped closer. "You don't have to carry it alone." He exhaled slowly. "I've spent my life anticipating losses," he said, "but I never learned how to watch someone I love be dismantled in public." Her throat tightened. "You didn't fail me," she said. "You stood." He turned then, eyes intense. "I didn't stand to be noble. I stood because the alternative was unthinkable." She reached for him, resting her forehead against his chest. For a moment, they were just two people breathing together in the quiet aftermath of chaos. The breakthrough came without fanfare. A junior analyst at a donor bank broke ranks. An email trail surfaced, one that showed coordinated document fabrication, offshore pressure, and a deliberate attempt to smear Nia to destabilize the foundation's expansion. The story didn't explode. It shifted, quietly, gradually. A headline changed its tone. An alleged appeared where certainty once stood. A retraction followed, buried but undeniable. Nia read it 3 times. "They're correcting it," she whispered. Adrian nodded. "More will follow." Her hands shook, not from fear this time, but from release. "What if people don't believe it?" she asked. "What if the damage is already done?" He cupped her face gently. "Then we rebuild anyway." 2 days later, Adrian received an invitation. The same board that had demanded he choose now wanted him back at the table. Conditional, of course. Reinstatement, restored influence. A quiet acknowledgement that perhaps he'd been right. He showed Nia the message without commentary. She read it slowly. "They're giving you a way back," she said. "Yes. And they'll expect you to distance yourself again," she said. "Eventually." She handed the tablet back. "You should go." He stared at her. "That's not what I want to hear." "That doesn't make it wrong," she replied gently. "You built something powerful. You don't have to burn it down for me." He studied her like he was seeing her for the first time all over again. "This is why I chose you," he said quietly. She frowned. "For telling you to leave?" "For refusing to be the center of my life at the cost of my integrity," he said. "You don't cling. You don't bargain." She swallowed hard. "But I'm not leaving," he continued. "I'll go back. On my terms." Her breath caught. "And if they won't accept that, then I'll build something else."
No spin, no intermediaries, just truth. Nia sat in the front row, hands clasped tightly in her lap, as Adrian stepped up to the podium. Cameras flashed. "This is not a defense," he said calmly. "It's an acknowledgement." He spoke of fabricated evidence, of manipulation, of a system that punished integrity when it became inconvenient. Then he did something no one expected. He stepped aside and invited Nia to join him. A ripple moved through the room. Her heart pounded as she rose, walking toward him with every eye in the world on her. "This woman," Adrian said, voice steady, "was targeted because she would not bend." He turned to her, "And I would choose her again." The room went silent. Nia took the microphone with hands that no longer shook. "I don't need vindication," she said. "I need accountability." Her voice carried. "I stand by my work, and I stand by the truth." The questions that followed were sharp, but for the first time, fair. When it ended, the world felt different, not healed.